This is Maverick at Cedar Point, one of the most legendary roller coasters out there. And while this coaster only stands 105 feet tall, it is one of the most intense roller coasters out there, and is easily one of the best roller coasters you're going to ride. But that kind of starts to make us question, is Maverick better than the legendary Steel Vengeance? Or is it always going to sit in that number 2 spot in Cedar Point's coaster lineup? Well, we're going to be finding all of that out and more, so let's get started. Maverick, located at Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio, stands 105 feet tall, features a 100-foot drop, reaches a top speed of 70 miles per hour, features about 4,500 feet of track, has a 95-degree drop, and features 2 inversions. Now, Maverick is definitely not a big coaster height-wise, but this coaster is still crazy intense. And I don't even know how they fit a 95-degree drop in just 100 feet, but it's honestly crazy. Anyway, this coaster features 2 LSM launches, one propelling you up the lift hill, and one launch mid-ride that propels you to the max speed of 70 miles per hour. And again, this launch is just crazy. The acceleration into the dark, into the sharp turn, it's just such a fun launch. One thing to definitely note is that this coaster is not a high capacity attraction. Maverick often runs with 5 trains, featuring a total of only 12 riders per train. Now, 2 trains are dispatched from the station at once, and the line moves fairly consistently, but with the trains being so small, it's still not a very high capacity line. And given how ridiculously popular Maverick is, be prepared to wait upwards of an hour on most days. And if you are visiting on a busier day, like a Saturday or even like a Friday, be prepared to wait about 90 minutes, especially with the amount of fast lane people that try to ride Maverick each hour. But trust me, this coaster will be well worth the wait. This coaster is themed to like a western frontier town, all of that good stuff in the back of Cedar Point. And one thing I do want to talk about is the trains for 1 second. These are definitely not the best trains in the world, but they're not terrible. It's almost like an over-the-shoulder restraint. It's more like a vest restraint per se. You like bring it down over your head. It's a lap bar, but then there are straps on the side. They're soft straps, but I wouldn't call these straps necessarily uncomfortable, but you definitely feel them throughout the ride. Now, due to the intense nature of the ride, this type of restraint was necessary. I just wish they'd found a way to not really make it like a vest restraint, because I do feel like it kind of takes away from the ride experience. But then again, these do make you feel more secure throughout the ride, which some people definitely do prefer. So overall, the trains are fine, but definitely not great. Now let's get into the moment that you've all been waiting for. Let's go through the layout of Maverick at Cedar Point, element by element. After a fairly long wait, you dispatch from the station and begin ascending up the lift hill via launch. It's honestly pretty fun, and it's way better than a traditional chain lift. Now, you're not going crazy fast or anything, but still definitely better than a chain lift when you look out to your right and your left. You then reach the top of the lift hill and descend down your 100-foot, 95-degree drop. This is just crazy. You know, there's some pretty good drops out there that are way taller and way steeper and all of that, but this drop is just unreal. The first time I rode this coaster and experienced that drop, it was probably the strongest airtime I'd ever felt. It was just mind-blowingly good. And I know it's not a big drop, and it might look underwhelming, but trust me, it's really incredible. Next, you enter a right-hand turn before quickly snapping to your left. Don't worry, this isn't super painful, and you do it again to the right. Again, not too painful or anything, before ascending into a very good airtime. Especially in the back, you get some pretty crazy sustained ejector airtime, before ascending into your first of 2 quote-unquote twisted horseshoe rolls. These 2 inversions aren't anything crazy. They're definitely a nice change of pace within the ride, but they're not super snappy. They don't really provide any hang time or anything like that. They're just okay. There's nothing wrong with them, but they don't really stand out with with how good the rest of the ride is. So did you get too excited for these 2 elements? No, but are they bad? No, not at all. You then head into your second twisted horseshoe roll, pretty much the same thing as the other one, before descending back down, heading to the right, and preparing for your 70 mile per hour second launch. And get ready, because this launch is really, really good. You gain a ton of speed really quickly, reaching your top speed, you have the wind in your face and everything, and you gather more and more and more and more speed in the dark. It's such a cool experience, before sharply banking to your left and heading up into a set of trim brakes. Now, these trim brakes don't hit crazy hard or anything, and I get why they're there, so I give Cedar Point a pass on these. And then you enter a scenic bank turnaround or whatever. You're overlooking the pass, then you're on the water, before heading into this overbank turn right under the lift hill. This whole group of elements is so cool to look at when you're passing by on your way to ride Maverick, and honestly gets you really excited for the ride ahead. And the overbank turn is super snappy and a really good element too. You then enter another overbank turn similar to the one right before it, before heading into another ejector-filled airtime hill, which is a little less strong and a less sustained than the first airtime hill, but definitely still pretty crazy. Before banking right and ascending into your final brake run, concluding your crazy ride on Maverick. Alright, that ride was pretty crazy, but is it better than Steel Vengeance? I'm going to personally say no. As intense and unique and such a cool ride experience as Maverick is, I still think Steel Vengeance's longer layout, more airtime, and some things like better inversions per se, makes Steel Vengeance an overall better coaster than Maverick. But that doesn't mean that Maverick's a bad coaster whatsoever. The fact that it's getting compared to Steel Vengeance whatsoever means that it's a really, really, really good coaster. And yes, I know the line will probably be pretty long, but you really, really need to try to get a ride on Maverick. Oh, and here's a little bit of a pro tip. If you're a little nervous to ride Maverick, or you get nauseous on roller coasters easily, want a little bit less of an intense ride on Maverick per se, I would recommend riding up front. A, you get the really cool visuals of Maverick, which is obviously amazing in the wind in your face and all that. B, it allows you to see where you're going, so it helps make you less nauseous. And C, it's a little less intense because the airtime won't be as extreme, the whip in the back won't be as extreme or anything like that. So especially if you're someone who just doesn't necessarily feel good after riding like an intense roller coaster or something like that, or get nauseous easily, highly, highly, highly recommend riding up front. You'll still get an awesome ride, and you'll feel a whole lot better after that too. So for my final rating of this coaster, I give Maverick an A+. It's in my top 5 roller coasters that I have ridden. It's really an incredible ride, and definitely a must ride whenever you visit Cedar Point. Now, all of this is great and all, but the thing is, Cedar Point can be really expensive to visit. Gotta find a hotel, pay for parking, buy tickets, and all of that. And that cost can really add up, especially when they're charging like 18 bucks for food. So if you want some tips on how to save money whenever you visit a theme park, such as Cedar Point, then check out the video on your screen right now. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like down below, subscribe for more coaster content coming your way, and thank you guys for watching. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you all on the next one.